Ladies and gents, welcome back. Crime has become a big problem here in Canada. The cities are overflowing with violent criminals who are being released out on bail mere moments after being arraigned or booked in for these crimes, let out on bail so that they can go out in the street and commit more crimes as they await the trial for the crimes that they have committed. And this may be moving into, because there's such an overflow of this, moving into people's rural communities, small towns, and the like. And in Canada here recently, they have made a decision, despite all of this, to even be lenient on people who have committed some of the most heinous crimes. Paul Bernardo being one of these cases recently, where he was transferred from his maximum security prison, where he's meant to rot away for the rest of his life, to a minimum security prison where he might see a little bit better treatment despite the heinous crimes that he has committed in our country. And people are speaking out about it, and we have Pierre Poilievre. Last week, he first brought this up when he came out after hearing the news of it happening.
Despite his claims to the contrary, the public safety minister has the power to put out a regulation saying that a whole category of inmates are required to be in maximum security. That means inmates like multiple murderers such as Paul Bernardo. He has the ability to declare that the Paul Bernardos of the world must stay in maximum security. I'm calling on the Prime Minister to direct his public safety minister to say that all mass murderers should have to serve their entire sentences in maximum security prisons. This is a no-brainer.
Yeah,
the Prime Minister can do it. He's got to stop passing the buck and pretending he can't do it. Do the responsible thing and put this monster back in a maximum security prison where he belongs.
Mr. Bernardo is still in jail. What's the problem in your view for him?
He should be in a maximum security prison. He's the worst monster in Canada, and he should be forced to stay where he is right now.
Absolutely. And where he is, or where he was a maximum security prison where he wasn't afforded very nice living. Of course, we don't have capital punishment here in Canada, so he was given the maximum of what could be given to him. Now, many people reporting on this review of Bernardo's transfer to minimum security prison underway. Laurie Goldstein posting on the Toronto CTV News article on Twitter here. Many different opinions on this, and the Conservatives put forward a motion to say to actually have this decision reversed, and they put this forward in Parliament yesterday.
I should note that the Trudeau government has the power today to reverse this decision under Section 6.1 of the Corrections and Conditional Release Act. A Minister of Public Safety can direct the Commissioner to classify an entire group of prisoners as requiring maximum security detention. Ministers of Public Safety have issued these types of directives in the past, so there is precedent for it. So Justin Trudeau and Marco Mendiccino do have the power to reverse this decision now. We call on them to do that.
So they called on them to do that, and yesterday the vote was squashed. Pierre Poilievre saying that the Liberals just opposed our motion to keep Paul Bernardo and evil mass murderers like him in maximum security prisons. Conservatives are fighting to protect victims. Trudeau is putting criminals first, and it would definitely appear that way. We have Canada Proud reporting on this, breaking. The Trudeau Liberals voted against Conservative motion to send serial rapist murderer Paul Bernardo back to maximum security prison. Toronto Star article saying lawyer for Bernardo victims said the families were only told of the transfer the day it happened. They weren't even told ahead of time. Now, this is something that in Canada we afford to the victims of these crimes and the families of the victims, is a heads up on what's happening to the person who is convicted for these crimes. But apparently they give it to them not ahead of time so that they can possibly maybe affect change on the decisions. No, they tell them the day it's happening. Tim Danson said the family of Kristen French was notified of the convicted killer's transfer in the morning of May 29th. then told his transfer was complete that afternoon. And then we have more people coming out saying more things about this. Our common sense conservative bill will keep Paul Bernardo and other mass murderers behind maximum security prison for the rest of their lives. And here's this video here.
The name Paul Bernardo in our community is synonymous with evil. He's a monster, and he should be in maximum security in prison.
A monster who is the personification of pure evil is being given more freedom and presenting greater risk, and that he should be back in a maximum security penitentiary, and that no killer of this type should ever be released from maximum security. In fact, he should leave in a coffin. Since this outrage became known, Trudeau has done nothing. So we're introducing a bill that would ban the Trudeau government from moving multiple murderers, mass murderers, into medium security. The Conservative bill would require every mass murderer serve out their full sentence in maximum security. This is a bill that will come forward from Tony Baldinelli.
We want to extend.
I'll leave a link in the description down below where you can watch this video in its entirety. But yes, that bill was squashed by the Liberal NDP Coalition, obviously to further their agenda. I'm not sure what their purpose here is. Now, the Corrections Services posted this on their Twitter. CSC issued the following statement regarding Paul Bernardo. Ottawa, June 5th, 2023. Today, the Correctional Services of Canada issued the following statement regarding Paul Bernardo. The Corrections Service of Canada takes its work seriously. Decisions are taken with utmost care and public safety and victims' rights, and follow the rule of law. First, we want to acknowledge that our decision have impact on the victims. These were horrific crimes, and we regard any pain and concern this has caused. We want to assure Canadians that the offender continues to be incarcerated in a secure and controlled institution with every precaution in place to maintain public safety. Secondly, we want Canadians to have the confidence in our decisions. Therefore, Commissioner Kelly has ordered an additional review of this offender's security classification to ensure it was appropriate, evidence-based, and more importantly, adequately considered victims. We are restricted by law in what we can divulge about the offender's case. However, the following context is important. Paul Bernardo has been incarcerated since 1993 and continues to serve an indeterminate life sentence, the most serious possible in Canada. Dangerous offenders are closely monitored. It is important to know that minimum security facilities have the same perimeter controls as maximum security institutions. High fences, armed correctional officers equipped with proper security equipment, etc. These facilities are strictly guarded 24/7. Inmate movement is controlled, and we have rigorous security protocols. Now, they don't say about what the different sort of amenities and treatments and whatnot are. You know, the punishment. This is the whole point about being in maximum security is the punishment of being in maximum security. So they're not really addressing that in this. Our decisions on security levels must apply to the law as defined in the Corrections and Conditional Release Act. In fact, a review is required every 2 years. This ensures that inmates continue to be placed at the appropriate security level, and that the placement responds to any reassessed security requirements. It is important to note that some inmates never make it to minimum security, nor do they return to our communities. Well, if most inmates never make it, you think the most heinous crime committed, that would definitely not make it to minimum security. We understand that Canadians want to know reasons for such transfers. Security classifications and transfers are based on risk to public safety, escape risk, and offenders' institutional adjustment, and other case-specific information, such as psychological risk assessments. Let us be clear that at any point an inmate can be placed or returned to a higher security level if deemed necessary to ensure the safety of the public or our institutions, and pending the review will not hesitate to do so if necessary. Throughout Paul Bernardo's sentence, we have continued to provide information and updates to all registered victims through our National Victim Service Program, and will continue to do so moving forward. Of course, complying at the minimum because they were only told the day it was happening. Now, this from the National Post. First reading, it's not inconceivable that Paul Bernardo eventually could get out of jail. Despite officials' assurances, he will always be one sympathetic parole board member or corrections officer away from freedom. And this is appalling to most Canadians here, later down in the article. It is important to note that some inmates never make it to minimum security, nor do they return to our communities, they wrote in that statement that they put out, the correctional facilities. But there is no actual mechanism in Canadian law to indeterminately keep Bernardo behind bars. Although he has been punished to the absolute limit of Canadian criminal law, Bernardo is perpetually only one sympathetic parole board decision away from regaining his freedom. As the record shows, Canadian justice system has no qualms about freeing other serial killers and child murderers, even when those offenders have exactly the same level of criminal sanction as Bernardo does. It's often reported that Bernardo received a life sentence for his litany of criminal convictions in 1995, including 2 counts of first-degree murder. But the life portion of it only refers to Bernardo's period of judicial supervision. He can still get out of prison, but he would always technically be on parole. And Canadian offenders serving life sentences are released from jail regularly. Even for those convicted of first-degree murder, the most serious offense in the criminal code, they're only going to spend on average 22.4 years in prison before obtaining parole, according to a review performed by the Correctional Services of Canada in 2022. And this is where a lot of people are fearing this is the direction that we're heading in with Paul Bernardo. First step, minimum security, laxer and laxer punishment until the eventually will be released. And that is just an appalling thought to most Canadians. And as Pierre Poilievre said, most are hoping that the only time he leaves that prison cell will be in a coffin. And that's the sentiment that's going around Canada at the moment. Senator Leo Housakos says Paul Bernardo is a monster. He should be locked up in perpetually. What does the Trudeau government need to review? This public security minister and government is beyond incompetent. And this is in reply to a article from the Global News. Paul Bernardo's transfer to minimum security prison will be reviewed, minister says. And of course, yeah, this is where we're at with this. But I'd love to leave this one with you guys with this case, this situation, as we have become more and more relaxed about crime, especially violent crime in Canada. And we have more violent criminals walking the streets as they await these trials that are supposed to put them away for long, long stretches of time. Where are we standing on this today? Anyway, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.